from Flames TV, Kristin Hallett, and Breakfast Television too. And we see you all the time in the building, Eric
Sorry
Francis.
about
He of Jack FM, the Calgary Sun, Sportsnet 960 The Fan. Anything we're leaving out at this point?
Collects jobs.
I'm a hoarder. I am a hoarder.
You're a hoarder of jobs.
I'm sorry about that.
And your jobs collectively and our lives were made a little bit easier on Saturday night after a beauty of a game. I want to know what it was like. I mean, not just being in the dome for that, but then you guys were there at the scrum, and how were the guys feeling?
I think it was probably as far as the atmosphere in the dressing room. And some of them leave and they'll have their time alone where the press isn't there, but I would have to say that that was probably one of the more special nights. Kari Ramo, I took a couple photos of him to tweet from the Flames account, and I couldn't use them because he looked like a crazy person because he was so happy. He had the crazy happy eyes. I was in the scrum with Eric, and I even told you some of the questions you had for Matt Stajan were, I'll never forget that. It was pretty cool.
Well, yeah, Stajan was the story. Wow, there were so many stories on that night, but Matt Stajan, of course, being the hero and the year he's had, you know, just over a year ago, lost his first child shortly after childbirth. Him and Katie have waged a very public mourning, and then in March had their first child, and Elliot was born. And so that was the first thing that came to mind when we asked him about the year he's had and how special it was. His first playoff goal.
Unbelievable.
He's been in the National Hockey League for over 11 years, and that was his first playoff goal. And pretty good timing
What a
for his
doozy.
first playoff goal, and just so happy for him. And everybody's so happy for one another. Speaking of which, Michael Furlan on the ice after the game doing a post-game interview, Stajan went right up to him and gave him a big kiss.
I saw that.
So the love-in is very public now.
Yeah,
it's
very
wonderful.
much so.
It's
And you know,
wonderful.
I have to give you props because you actually tweeted after the Flames were down 3-0. You tweeted, "It's time." I won't. You tweeted that it's time for Furlan to do his thing.
It might be one of the luckiest tweets and timing. I just said this would be a good time for one of those shifts for Michael Furlan, and 30 seconds later he scores a goal. I was only talking about him going out and hitting 4 or 5 guys and getting the crowd back into it. He went one better, scored a goal, and boy, I will say, you know, a lot of this, you know, I was along the ride for the 2004, and it's really the only comparison the city's ever had. 89 was different because they were one of the favored teams. But wow, this was one of the greatest hockey games in the history of our city. There's absolutely no question about it for a million different reasons. And it's so wonderful to see the city celebrating in it. I talked to Joe Colburn. He had a funny anecdote that he was telling me. He lives a block off the Red Mile, and while he was on his way home, you know, people spotted him, high-fiving him like crazy, all over him. And he said, well, they thought I was Monahan. And he said, once they realized I wasn't Monahan, I was just Joe, they calmed down a little bit, but it was still a very nice moment.
That's awesome.
Back to the atmosphere, something that stood out to me, I was speaking to a friend of mine who was at the Stanley Cup Finals last year in LA and said that it was louder in the dome. The atmosphere and the energy was louder in the dome on Saturday. So that kind of puts it into perspective, what we're dealing with, how excited the fans are, and how cool it was.
Wow.
So cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, Anaheim's next, right? Anaheim is a powerhouse in the West. I mean, between Anaheim and St. Louis, right? They were the two kind of dominant teams during the.
Oh, we saw what happened to St. Louis.
St.
I know.
Gone.
I know. So, I mean, is there hope for our Flames? I mean,
Anaheim's who we'd hope for. Everyone, it sounded like, would hope for over the Jets. So to see the Jets go, I don't know if you agree with that, but as far as the matchup, I feel, and within the Flames, just speaking, they were hoping for Anaheim over the Jets, just as far as the matchup goes. Yeah.
I mean, the Flames have not won at the Honda Center since 2006. They haven't won a regular season since 2004.
Yeah, 20 games.
In 2006, they won a playoff game there.
So it's a tough task, but I'm not willing to write the Flames off. I mean, who could?
Really?
Because you were.
This was the guy all year long. I lost quite a lot of money wagering against the Flames making the playoffs. I wasn't the only one, but you know, I did predict that they would beat Vancouver, and this just has that eerie feeling like 2004 when I thought they'd beat Vancouver then too. After that, it was nobody thought they could get to the final. I'm not saying they're going to go to the final. I'm going to say though that they certainly have a chance against Anaheim. No one's going to write them up. They're not going to get blown away by the Ducks. The difference, the real concern that I have as a hockey guy is Calgary's playing with 4 defensemen, basically. Anaheim has like 8 of them.
Oh, I know.
And teams that know they have a chance at winning the Cup load up on defensemen because it's a war of attrition. The Flames' defense, they block shots like crazy. They play crazy minutes. I just worry that eventually something bad's going to happen to one of them, and then they'll be playing with 3 defensemen. Like, So that's the difference.
I'm actually surprised that the Flames defensemen aren't as hurt as I would. I thought they would be
I
with the
also
amount of
don't
stuff
know.
they block.
We
Yeah.
all
There's a lot of
don't
ice packs in that dressing room after every game, let me
definitely.
tell you.
It's incredible. And the way they block shots, too, the way that they are forced to play and have to play, they're going to need to stay healthy, is basically the plain of it, the short of it.
Yeah.
So we don't know exactly when the next series is starting.
What do you guess?
The scuttlebutt inside the hockey world is basically it'll be Thursday and
Thursday?
Sunday in Anaheim.
Right, because there's a conflict
Tuesday-
on Saturday night.
Tuesday
right?
and Thursday here in Calgary.
Okay.
It's not in stone and it's not official, but they're expected to announce that very soon here.
Okay.
Well, no matter what, it's going.
Yeah.
And they're going.
Yeah.
So
And I gotta have to just tell people that are, thinking, do the players really care about all the hoopla going around? It is so heartening to them. I asked every player in that room if they could compare it to anything else that they've ever experienced in their lives. And they can't.
Yeah.
Jonas Hiller was the only one who could kind of say, well, growing up in Switzerland, this was like World Cup soccer.
Sure.
Right.
When our country won a game, people with car flags and honking. But other than that, most of these guys are from small towns. I asked Dennis Weidman, he says, I'm from Elmira, a town of 5,000 in Ontario. He says, the Sugar Kings were big, but I don't remember a Red Mile. This was junior B hockey. So
Yeah.
it's something that none of them, and a lot of people in the city have never experienced before.
yeah. Well, really, really nice to be able to be a part of it, and for you guys,
Yeah.
I know being members of the press and seeing this happen, especially you being, sort of part of the team,
pretty
as
cool.
it were. So,
Pretty cool.
Well, they're good guys, and you want good things for good people.
Yeah, exactly,
So,
right?
yeah.
Eric Francis from Jack FM, Kristin Hallett from Flames TV.